Hi guys, happy Wednesday and welcome to the morning after. I am your host, Sharleen Joynt, and today we are recapping episode 3 of season 16 of The Bachelorette, starring Claire Crawley. And you guys know by now that I start off every morning after with a moment that delivered that was brought to you by Skip the Dishes, which delivers delicious food to your door. I feel like my moment that delivered this week might come as a bit of a surprise. It was a subtle moment, but for me, my moment that delivered was when Easy just so happened to know which door to knock on to interrupt Claire and Dale during their makeout sesh. We knew from just one scene earlier when Claire brought Dale there that the guys didn't know where Claire was staying, which was the Casa del Claire, as she called it to Dale. Yet, the fact that Easy just so happened to know exactly which door to knock on, of course, tells us that producers told him to do so. When you think about it, Claire and Dale, as long as they're just making out on the bed, there's not only the guys waiting, but an entire production team. All the producers, all the camera guys are all just like... And I really felt like this was an indicator that not only were the men a little impatient and maybe annoyed with how nothing was happening other than Claire and Dale making out, but even production was annoyed as they sent Easy to go and interrupt them. It was a little validating, I guess, to look at it this way because it made me realize that the producers were probably just as annoyed as I was watching this scene. So that was my moment that delivered. And of course, next time you were craving something spicy to go with your drama, you should use the Skip app to get it delivered to your door. So this was a rough episode and I'm in a good mood today. I don't know why, but man, I was not in a good mood when I finished that episode. There were a lot of decisions made that I disagreed with and that really just sort of rubbed me wrong, but I'll go through in chronological order as I always do here. We'll start off with the beginning of the episode, which was last week continued. So this is when Joseph is confronting Claire about the strip group date that he wasn't on. It was clear to me that Joseph went into this wanting to shit on Claire. That much was clear. He went way too far in this scene, in my opinion. He told her several times how appalled he was by her and how classless she found someone. There just comes a point where telling someone that kind of information, especially someone you don't know that well, starts to make you look rather appalling and classless versus getting the message across that the other person is those things. And it also displayed an alarming, red flags, in my opinion, as to potentially abusive tendencies, like his inability to let Claire speak her piece after he had spent what seemed like 20 minutes speaking his. It just seemed like he didn't put any stock in what she had to say seriously and just didn't care what she had to say. Ultimately, if you're so appalled by someone, just leave. This was unnecessary. It just felt like he had an axe to grind. There was some rage there that was disturbing to watch, honestly. So the next day rolls around and Deanna Pappas joins to speak with Claire. I can see why they brought Deanna on here because you can really see how speaking with other women opens up a side to Claire that a normal ITM does not. Her lips loosen up truly when she talks to women. She revealed that she had saved Dale's ripped pants and slept with them. And she even, with a female producer at one point later on, said that she thought the roast of Dale wasn't funny. In these little in-between moments when she doesn't necessarily remember that this is all being filmed or recorded. So I can see why they brought Deanna on for sure. However, as far as we could tell, this really did eat into that first group date. I'll say this much, as a former contestant on this show, if I went through as much as these men went through to get to this point on this show, I would be a little miffed for group dates to be canceled with pretty much no explanation or reason whatsoever. And it's especially in these early stages because you're not yet at the point where you're really driving each other nuts. Later on, a group date's like, but early on, you just want to do things. You know, there's a lot of sitting around doing nothing. So for a group date to be just canceled with just we ran out of time. And there was no explanation really as to why they ran out of time. I would be annoyed with that. And you could tell the men were a bit like, the bigger issue here is that the guys seemed dressed and ready to go for upwards of 4 hours, just sort of sitting around and waiting. And so my issue with this has more to do with the expectation, the sort of mental preparation. If they get a group date card, their names are on the group date card, and they're all told to be ready for a certain time, they all do their ITMs talking about their anticipation of that group date, and then it's just nothing. That's the problem. And I think that also applies to the evening. Don't tell the men there's going to be an extra long cocktail party where you're going to spend all this time with them if ultimately they're not going to get any more time than usual, and in fact they will be scrambling for time. Dale also did this by telling the other men that he just needed 5 minutes with Claire. He set an expectation that he would be gone for only 5 minutes, and then he was gone for almost an hour. So to me, it's expectation versus reality. I'm an expectation manager. I would rather exceed expectations than fall short of them, and so maybe I'm sensitive to this, but that really was the biggest problem to me on this group date in general. The Zach J one-on-one date, I am saving for my Pretty Pandas recap, so you'll have to stay tuned for that. And finally, the second group date, the comedy roast with Margaret Cho. I really love Margaret Cho, and my biggest complaint about this part of the date was that we didn't see enough of her. It was really a waste of her comedic chops and talent for it to just sort of be thrown away. I kind of felt like they were like, oh yeah, Margaret Cho's here. Now, the whole point of a roast, as we know, is that all people are fair game. It's a sort of almost a test to how much you can laugh at yourself. And what we learned through this date was that when Claire says, oh yeah, everyone's fair game, I love a good roast, make fun of each other, she really didn't mean that, because by taking such offense to the guys ripping on Dale, she was pretty much saying, oh yeah, everyone's fair game except for Dale. That's not cool. And then of course the rest of the date became about her trying to find out why the guys didn't like Dale. I think if I had to distill down to one thing what bothered me about this roast group date, it was the fact that any issues that the men seemed to have with Dale, any hostility they had towards Dale, was chalked up to basic jealousy. And there's so much more to it than that. They're living with this man day in, day out. They should be given more credit than that, than just saying, oh yeah, they're just jealous, they just want that time with Claire. I really feel that dismissing their take, especially multiple men's takes, it wasn't just one man, it wasn't only Bennett who went at Dale, it was so many of them, if not all of them. You know, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I really feel like by just chalking it up to jealousy is far too simplistic, and also just really dismissing the men's experiences in this process and in living with Dale, with their housemate. Ooh, that was a rough episode, you guys. I cannot remember the last time I finished an episode and I was as rageful as I was after I finished this. I had a lot of anger towards choices that, I'm sorry to say, Claire made and that Dale made, and the overall lack of consideration for the people around them, whether they be the other contestants or the production. Thank you guys for tuning in to this episode of The Morning After. Be sure to read my Flair recap and my Pretty Pandas recap, which will come out later this week. And yeah, hopefully things go better from here on out. See you guys next week here on The Morning After. Bye.